Hey everyone, Noah Zerby here. This is one of a series of short videos examining questions in foreign policy. In this video, we're going to distinguish between international relations and foreign policy as fields of study. One of the central dilemmas in a course on foreign policy is differentiating it from international relations. This difficulty occurs in part because of how we structure the field of political science. Normally, at least in the United States, political science as a field is structured around four main subfields. American politics, which focuses on the study of the domestic politics of the United States, considering issues like voting behavior or the behavior of political parties, American political culture, political communication, the legislative process, and even things like constitutional law or public administration. This is the largest subfield of political science within the United States. As a subfield, comparative politics encompasses two discrete areas. The first focuses on the domestic politics of countries outside the United States. Thus, a comparativist might study political party behavior in Australia or voting behavior in South Africa, for example. The second area of comparative politics focuses on the methodology of comparison, and so comparativists might engage in regional or even transnational studies considering questions like legislative processes in the countries of Asia or processes of democratization across Latin America and so on. Now, there's some considerable overlap between American and comparative politics as subfields, and the difference between them often centers on where you're doing your studies. Someone studying American politics in the United States is an Americanist, and someone studying Canadian politics in Canada, I guess, is a Canadianist. But switch locations, and they'd both be classified as comparativists. And so moving back to our subfields, if American and comparative are the first two subfields of political science, then the third subfield is international relations. Now, as a field, international relations is the youngest of the political science subfields, and it's interdisciplinary in its focus, emerging only after World War I. It draws pretty extensively from other fields like economics, history, anthropology, cultural studies, law, and others, and it's concerned primarily with relations between states. In the broadest sense, it encompasses questions of war, diplomacy, trade, foreign policy, and relations with inter and non-state actors in the global system. And then finally, political theory is the fourth of the subfields. It usually focuses on, or more frequently focuses on, normative questions of morality and ethics, philosophical questions like the nature of liberty and freedom, the meaning of civil rights, and the responsiveness of citizens and states. As a field, international relations most often operates at the systemic level, taking the individual actors, most often states, as discrete and independent units of analysis, that is, as the primary actors of global politics. So if we think about international relations as examining the relations between states, then we might think of foreign policy as focused on the processes and decisions that determine state behavior. Put simply, foreign policy might be thought of as a government strategy for dealing with other states. In this sense, foreign policy operates at the intersection of international relations and American or comparative politics. It seeks to break open the black box of state decision-making. Rather than trying to explain how the interactions between two or more states are resolved, foreign policy seeks to understand why states, or more accurately, why the decision-makers within states make the decisions that they do. That is, what are the inputs that go into the decision-making process, and what are the outputs, the decisions, the policies, the frameworks, and so on that result? Foreign policy analysis thus necessarily draws on both domestic and international forces. At the domestic level, we might seek to understand the individual psychological characteristics or leadership styles of key decision makers, or we might consider the organizational power dynamics and the political infighting that occurs within organizations and the bureaucracy. And at the international level, we might seek to understand how the international context shapes or delimits the options available to decision makers in particular situations. Let's think about that in context for just a moment. The year is 1962, and the United States has just discovered Soviet nuclear missiles being deployed to Cuba. The Cuban Missile Crisis is about to start. As a field, international relations might ask questions like, how does the Soviet deployment of missiles affect the global balance of power and the structure of nuclear deterrence? And as a field, foreign policy might ask questions like, does the Soviet nuclear missile deployment constitute a threat to the United States? And if so, what options does the United States have to address that deployment? How might the United States force the USSR to withdraw its missiles? International relations is seeking to understand the events surrounding the crisis and how those events structure or impact broader systemic questions in the global system. Foreign policy, by contrast, is focused on understanding the goals, motivations, and the decisions of the various states and actors involved in the crisis. So that covers the fundamental difference between international relations and foreign policy. As you can see, there's a fair degree of overlap between the two, but there's also some clear points of difference or divergence. That's it for now. Be sure to check out the other videos in this series, and thanks for watching, everyone. Have a good day.